This is the Arise Exchange Christmas Day Holiday Edition. Let's do a country focus now with Ghana here in West Africa, looking to bring it to completion in 2026, that multi-billion-dollar Tema floating liquefied natural gas facility. But beyond the floating nat gas project, Ghana is also positioning to leverage the new $25 billion Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline project. Now let's find out more in this VIP interview with Dr. Asante, the CEO of the Ghana National Gas Company.
Ghana has made significant strides in developing its domestic gas industry. How is Ghana Gas positioning itself to meet the country's growing energy demand and support industrial growth?
Yeah. So thank you very much. And once again, I want to express our appreciation for the opportunity to discuss Ghana Gas, in particular, and Ghana in general, as far as the energy industry is concerned. First of all, Ghana Gas's business model really is to gather gas, process it, transport it, and market it. So we are a crucial link between the source of gas and also the market. Okay. When we look at Ghana's growing energy demand, so I want to discuss the supply and demand of energy in Ghana in as short a time as possible. Ghana's energy demand is growing at a rate of about, I would say, 5 to about 10% per annum, which is quite significant. Trying to mimic the GDP, but it's quite significant. And when it comes to the supply, meeting that demand, I think that's where the challenge actually comes. Now, let's look at our mix, our energy mix, in terms of supply. So in terms of supply, we're looking at hydroelectric power. We also are looking at thermal power, where gas is the main driver, and then a bit of solar. This is small, it's just embedded generation. Now, when it comes to the demand, as I mentioned, it's actually eclipsing the supply. So Ghana Gas, which is the facilitator of producing thermal energy, really is looking at enhancing the supply sources, the portfolio of supply sources to meet this growing demand. So we're looking at actually enhancing certainly our gas supply sources, both domestic and also imports. So imports could be anything, LNG, and certainly even pipeline gas from Nigeria as well. And then to complement that, we're also looking at the requisite infrastructure that will link the supply source to the market. So that's what we're doing there.
Could you just take us through the latest operational status, capacity developments, as well as the project timelines for the Tema FLNG terminal, as well as the Atuabo 2 gas processing plant?
All right. Well, thank you. Operational status, Ghana Gas is open for business. We are fully operational. I think we are doing, as I mentioned, taking gas, processing it, and then transporting it or transmitting it to the market. And we've been doing that, for the last 10 years. I think operationally, we actually started I would say November of 2014. Wow. So yes, we are just about 10 years old now. In terms of infrastructure expansion, it really encapsulates both the processing and the transportation infrastructure. Processing, we're looking at the Atuabo GPP2, and we are on track. We've finished the front-end engineering design, signed all the project implementation agreements with the contractor, and so we're on track. The timeline for that, it's around the second to third quarter of 2026. So we are just about 24 months away for that, so we're on track. The Tema FLNG, it's probably another source of gas. So that would be gas from LNG source. And all the necessary marine facilities are complete. So I'm talking about all the receiving facilities, including the FSRU, which is the floating storage unit, as well as the regasification. So we have two separate units, regasification unit as well as the storage unit. Those are all complete. The problem with the thermal project now is the commodities, how to get LNG cargoes come through. I think if we look at what is happening globally with the global geopolitics and also looking at wars that are going on in Europe and other places, it's really exacerbated the energy demand in those areas. So LNG cargoes, which could have come to Africa and Ghana for that matter, is now going to Europe. So even though the facilities are ready, the cargo is not coming because it will probably fetch more dollars for the sellers in Europe than in Africa.
Yeah.
So we are ready for that as well. But I hope that when things actually calm down, we'll be having that as an alternative source of gas supply.
And what strategies do you have in place to build local expertise as well as increase local participation in the Ghana gas sector?
Thanks. I'm sure you've heard about the Ghana Gas story. If not, Ghana Gas, I mentioned, was actually incorporated in 2011. And from 2011 to 2014, we actually installed the infrastructure that is required for gathering, processing, and transportation. And actual first gas happened, like I mentioned, in November 2014, but commercial production of gas actually started in May of 2015. And from that period up to March of 2017, all the facilities were being operated by our Chinese counterparts. So operation of Ghana Gas infrastructure was being done by the Chinese. But March of 2017, we decided that no, we want to use indigenous Ghanaian expertise. Our young men and women engineers and technicians will take over from the Chinese as far as the operation of the infrastructure is concerned. That's what we did. Now, to put it in context, it took Nigeria about 40 years to fully indigenize the operation. And even Trinidad and Tobago, about 50 to 60 years to fully indigenize their operation. In Ghana, it took us 3 years. So Ghana Gas, for that matter. So I think this will be a lesson for most of the companies in Africa to try and look from within the talent, the intellectual capacity of our young men and women to actually man this very sophisticated industry. And that's what we did. I think that has served us very well. I think besides that, we'll also be looking at enhancing our infrastructure as well. Yeah.
And how is Ghana Gas preparing for the future of energy in Ghana? And what role do you envision natural gas will play in achieving net zero?
Yeah. So this has always been a very confounding issue, not certainly for Ghana or Africa for that matter, but certainly it's a global phenomenon now. And my take on the whole discussion on energy transition actually has got two legs. The first leg is we should be looking at the impact of region. So there should be a regional component to this. We can't have a blanket date or a blanket number to transition from fossil fuels to renewables. I think it should be location specific. And if I put this in context, if you look at Africa, Africa's population is about 18% of the total world population. But the carbon footprint of an African, you and I, our carbon footprint is only about 4%. So there seems to be an imbalance between really population and our emission of CO2 gas. And I'm not saying that we should continue and certainly abuse the climate, but certainly there should be some balance between the worst offenders when it comes to, and I'm talking about regions, the worst offenders when it comes to CO2 emission and also the least offenders, and then allow them some more time, because Africa came in late as far as this game is concerned in terms of exploitation of our natural resources, our oil and gas resources. And for what it's worth, most of these advanced countries actually industrialize their economies based on these fossil fuels. Give us some more time. Certainly, we'll be mindful of the fact that there's climate change as well. So that is something that we should be balancing well. Looking at the worst offenders in terms of location, and then, of course, the CO2 emission.